Drake's fans have been impatiently waiting for the release of his IceMan album for a long time. Plenty of controversy has been brewing since his very publicized beef with Kendrick Lamar, and according to this YouTuber, Drake has been fooling the masses.
Drake just dropped 3 albums at the exact same time. But while the internet is obsessed with who his bars were aimed at, they are missing an even bigger question. If Drake is in an active standstill with his record label, why are they spending millions to market these projects? The ongoing belief is that Drake released this massive catalog to accelerate his contractual obligations. However, the label's financial support of these projects tells a different story altogether. This rollout indicates that Drake's entire public dispute with the record label was something much more strategic. The question is, was his disagreement with his record label a strategic rollout plan all along? Everyone wants to know why Drake dropped 3 albums simultaneously. Right now, the theory is he did it to fulfill his contract and become a free agent. They believe he found a genius way to outmaneuver the corporate infrastructure and come out on top. He even had some bars that seem to be directly aimed at UMG. People are looking at this album as Drake's final chess move against them. But I'm not quite sure that is what is actually happening here. I believe all of this is far more strategic. I spent the last few days looking into this release, and what I discovered seems to contradict this narrative entirely. If this album was Drake's way of outsmarting UMG, then why are they all over this album?
The reason why they're all over this album is because Drake is one of the hottest rappers alive. It's not like he don't have 21 #1 hits in 2021 alone. I mean, who else out there can pull together a crowd the way Drake can pull together a crowd? I'm talking people from all different nationalities. If Busy Bone was a superstar, he would be Drake. Because Drake have Latino fans, Black fans, Caucasian fans, Asian fans. We all know who Drake is. He's that famous. So why wouldn't a record label want to put all of their resources behind somebody that's a hot commodity?
Why did they spend what seems to be millions on marketing? Why is it released exclusively through Republic Records, a label housed under UMG? More importantly, why are they building up Drake to boost his value and leverage if they know he is planning on leaving them? That completely contradicts not only what Drake accused them of, but how record labels behave in general. These albums seem to tell a different story entirely. Our first clue comes from the expensive marketing campaign for this album. Chances are you've seen the viral stunts all over social media. It all started with the giant ice block. Drake built a massive 15-foot high and 20-foot long structure out of hundreds of ice blocks in downtown Toronto. He shared the exact coordinates and told fans the release date was hidden in the center of the structure, forcing them to physically show up and wait for the ice to melt. Then it was the Project Bot pyro production. Many residents in North York were startled after they heard what sounded like a massive explosion. Several residents called the authorities reporting the loud noise. They were told the loud boom was actually a controlled explosion as part of a highly cinematic, multi-million-dollar marketing production codenamed Project Bot.
Drake is one of my favorite artists. I don't know about y'all, but I'm so happy that he released his IceMan album because it's been cold without him. And now it's even more cold now that he's back on the scene because those shots he took at Kendrick Lamar, Dr. Dre, LeBron James, and all those other people that he mentioned in his music got me over here vibing out, doing my thing. I cooked yesterday listening to Drake. I worked out yesterday listening to Drake. I can't think of nothing that I didn't do while listening to Drake. He has got to be the best rapper to ever pick up a microphone, regardless of how you feel about it. The ice block explosion downtown Toronto was a great idea because it shook a lot of people up. He intimidated people, and nowadays you have to apply pressure in order to get what you want. So when Drake did what he did, I went out and got the album on day one because it was an excellent marketing strategy. His record label did the right thing by giving him the money to explode the blocks of ice. And after this, I must say, I'm a bigger Drake fan than I was before.
Drake's team also took over Toronto's iconic skyline by orchestrating a massive projection show on the CN Tower. He even gave away a brand new car during a stream.
Drake's IceMan, massive block of ice. I'm a big fan of Drake, and what I want to do, the first person who gets this key gets a brand new car.
As you might already know, that is not cheap. That is a really big bag being dumped on this album's promotion. Now, some people think Drake is the one paying for all of this marketing, but this album was exclusively released through Republic Records. Record labels traditionally provide a marketing budget for every project. Major music trade publications confirm that the IceMan campaign was a highly coordinated effort released officially through Republic Records and UMG. A rollout of this magnitude, involving public property, municipal permits, and major broadcast partnerships, traditionally costs a major label between $2 and $5 million for a superstar of Drake's caliber. This means the labels spend millions directly promoting Drake. But why? Why are the labels promoting this album when Drake is literally on the track list aiming bars directly at them? He focused his entire album on this artist versus the corporate infrastructure trope. In his song Janice STFU, he rapped the bar, "Swear my label gotta free me." He also rapped on the same song, differences between them getting you out of your deal and letting you out of your deal. On another track, he explicitly states his desire to cut ties and go independent, rapping, "I'm better off independent. They should let me leave. Yeah, cause I just wanna be free." On the track Make Them Cry, Drake raps about taking on the entire major label landscape to protect his position. He rapped, "F it, I'll battle the label. F it, I'll battle the majors. I'll battle the stations till I'm back in rotation." It makes no sense the label would then go and promote this album like they did. This is the very first indicator that the whole theory, Drake dropping these 3 albums at once to get out of his contract, isn't adding up. If Drake is unhappy with his label and publicly accused them of irregular tactics, and if he only dropped these albums to get out of his deal, why is UMG spending millions on making him a bigger artist? UMG gains nothing if they make Drake bigger only for him to leave for another label or go independent.
I think a lot of people are missing the point. The reason why they're putting so much money behind Drake is because he's the real deal. He has fans from America, Toronto, Tokyo, China, all across the world. He got fans in Africa. I'm the biggest Drake fan. Y'all don't know. I was thinking about getting the Drake tattoo until I seen that he had LeBron James tattooed on his body, and it made me think, will he get a tattoo of me on his body? I would highly doubt that. But one thing for sure that I know without a shadow of a doubt is that Drake has got to be the greatest rapper that ever lived, not the only greatest rapper alive. Who has more #1 hits? Who get more girls? Who get more, whatever it is? Drake has it all. If he was a comedian, he would be successful. If he wanted to go back to being an actor, he would be successful. If he wanted to be an R&B singer, he would be successful. And I believe if he wanted to play with the Toronto Raptors, he would lead them to a championship next year.
That only gives Drake more leverage. It makes no sense, especially because of the filings from last year. As you might remember, he filed a lawsuit against them, alleging they utilized irregular promotional tactics and violated their contract. He believed they used a musical feud between him and Kendrick to artificially devalue him. Since Drake's contract with UMG was rumored to be ending, Drake argued UMG strategically ensured Kendrick dominated their musical rivalry. UMG completely denied the allegations and firmly claimed they had no involvement. But Drake would not let go of this claim, and even after his filing was dismissed by the courts, he refiled the litigation. It clearly appeared that Drake and UMG were not on good terms, and the chances of Drake releasing an album before settling their issues seemed improbable. But then we start seeing all the expensive, obvious record label marketing stunts leading up to his album release. This proves not only that he was releasing a project, but he was doing it with UMG support. This completely contradicts the argument he makes in his lawsuit. If he claims they allegedly devised a plan to reduce his industry value, why are they now boosting his value? Especially after he sued them and is now allegedly planning on leaving his label. This is when I noticed something is off here. We all missed the bigger picture. At the end of the day, both Drake and Kendrick are associated with the same corporation. Drake through his partnership with Republic, and Kendrick through his distribution deal with UMG. The label profits massively from both artists. So, it is in their best interest to preserve the brand alignment of both artists to protect their profitability. Many would argue that Drake took a sizable hit after Kendrick was crowned the winner. Drake was undoubtedly losing revenue from the negative press, which means the label was losing money too. While the idea of the label allegedly using Drake as a sacrificial lamb of sorts to boost Kendrick seemed believable considering the situation, It is not sound business logic to artificially devalue your most profitable asset just to build up another. It would have made more sense if Drake was planning on leaving UMG, but the fact they backed this album with millions of dollars suggests Drake isn't going anywhere. Was Drake really trying to prove his label was working against him? Or was this all a part of a highly strategic planned rebrand? Now obviously, I cannot prove this without a shadow of a doubt, but I believe the evidence is pointing to this entire lawsuit angle being a highly orchestrated rebrand marketing strategy. After Kendrick won, fans were resistant to anything Drake related, so it seems Drake and Republic designed this angle to attempt to salvage his reputation. If they can paint the loss as not fully organic and instead manufactured, that would make Drake instantly look better. Also, the idea of Drake standing up to the traditional industry infrastructure gave him a hero trope which boosted his favorability. I truly feel the lawsuits were filed to sell this strategic narrative. Think about it. The lawsuits went absolutely nowhere. They were dismissed by the courts, and even after Drake refiled, nothing truly happened except for the headlines and the discussions it generated. While they paid a legal counsel to file the suit, they can later write that off as a marketing expense. I myself made videos where I seriously thought Drake was pulling a Michael Jackson, standing up to the industry infrastructure and demanding they right their wrongs.
Okay, let's nip this in the bud. Comparing Drake to Michael Jackson is straight foolery. Drake is already light-skinned. Michael had to pay or get a disease in order to be light. So there's no comparison. When it comes to #1 hits, Michael had songs, but they're not songs that you really want to listen to today. You can't play those Michael Jackson songs in a club unless everybody is extremely drunk. That's the only way they'll have a good time with some MJ on the radio. But if you put on Drake, everybody's going to dance. Everybody's going to have a good time. They might bust out the karaoke. You just never know what's going to happen when Drake hit the radio. He got allegations about him the same way Michael Jackson, R. Kelly, and all the other freaks in Hollywood. But the difference between Drake and all those other people with pedo allegations is that Kendrick Lamar sounds like a weirdo himself. He has a high-pitched, squeaky voice while he was calling out Drake. And don't get it twisted, I'm a Kendrick Lamar fan as well. As far as the West Coast is concerned, he might be a better celebrity than Snoop Dogg, The Game, Rapping Forte, Spice One, and all them other dudes, E40. Kendrick Lamar is the GOAT as far as West Coast rap, but when it comes to universal rap, it has to be Drake, and that's why they signed him to Universal Records, because we all know that he got mass appeal.
But after seeing this entire album roll out, I realized this is much deeper. I believe this narrative was designed to shift the blame from Drake to the label. Instead of blaming Drake for his own shortcomings, they put the blame on the record label. While this definitely might bring a few negative momentary headlines, it means absolutely nothing to them because they already have this stigma attached to their reputation. People already feel the industry's infrastructure utilizes highly questionable business tactics, so being accused of this narrative does not really change their reputation by much, if any. But it did change Drake's. Now he looks like the man brave enough to stand up to the corporate infrastructure. He repeatedly directed bars at them, but UMG still fully backed this album. While I could be wrong, I think Drake isn't leaving UMG. At this point, it seems like that was never the plan. Drake is one of the biggest artists in the world, and UMG is the biggest label. He has had a relationship with them since the very beginning of his career. They likely own his entire early catalog. What I believe is that the corporate infrastructure utilized Drake to boost Kendrick and is now developing a strategic narrative to repair his reputation. To me, the entire Kendrick and Drake moment was highly calculated. I have said since the beginning the entire situation seems strategically orchestrated as a marketing strategy. Back in 2024, when the situation kicked off, hip-hop had plateaued. Sales were starting to trend downward, and the industry needed something massive to generate engagement. This is exactly when the Drake and Kendrick situation arrived, right when hip-hop needed such a moment. While this could just be one big coincidence, it could also be a potential indication it was a highly orchestrated marketing plan. The two biggest names in the industry go head-to-head. They spark massive conversations and attract fans, while UMG sits in the background collecting the revenue. But they know exactly how to rebuild this brand's positioning. I believe all of this shows how labels use well-crafted industry tactics to guide public perception. Hip-hop was cooling down, so they introduced a strategic rivalry that forces fan attention. They are willing to truly sell the story, just like we see in the WWE. Drake, Kendrick, and UMG are all maximizing revenue, while fans are stuck debating if Kendrick is better than Drake. They lead you to believe is all organic, while, in reality, they are guiding the conversation behind the scenes. This is why I always advise taking these public grievances with a grain of salt. Drake made a huge deal claiming UMG worked against him, only for him to drop a new album with them months later. It is a highly coordinated media strategy that functions strictly as a corporate narrative rather than an authentic dispute. The simultaneous releases of these three albums provides the ultimate proof of how modern music marketing actually functions. Major labels operate entirely on return on investment. They do not leave their most profitable assets to chance, and they certainly do not fund multi-million-dollar promotional campaigns for artists actively trying to dismantle their corporate infrastructure. What we are witnessing is a masterclass in media positioning. The infrastructure engineered a narrative of rebellion to keep the audience highly engaged, securing historic streaming metrics for the label and a highly successful rebrand for the artist. I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but I feel like I presented more than enough that justifies my conclusion. I want to know your thoughts on this down in the comments. Do you believe the initial conflict was entirely orchestrated from the very beginning, or did they simply optimize an organic dispute into a massive rollout? Another thing I found interesting was Drake utilizing the Michael Jackson branding for his new album. I thought that was also directly tied into his perceived stance on his label. Think about it, Michael also had his famous dispute with the corporate infrastructure. But unlike Drake, Michael claimed that when he released his album, Sony failed to market it to his full potential on purpose. Michael claimed the labels were trying to force him to sell the ATV catalog by playing a strategic role that would hinder his album's success. Drake used the Michael Jackson glove as a direct reference to Michael.
Hey man, let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. Drake is the coldest of the coldest when it comes to that flow. He put some bars together that had me scratching my head for weeks. Scratching my head so much I had a hole in my head. Had to put a band-aid on my head. That boy is cold-blooded. So for him to release the IceMan album, oh man, it took me back to the comic book days. He already made a song about Wu-Tang. He ought to get Ghostface Killer on the track, Golden Arms, and all them other dudes with the Wu-Tang. Tikal. He probably need to call up the RZA and make him do the Bobby Digital remake on one of his remixes. I mean, Drake is the GOAT. I don't see what everybody is mad about. He released the album. I'm happy with it. There's millions of other fans that's happy with it. And regardless of what he decided to do in the future, he's going to be successful. The ladies still love him. We don't know what his sexual preferences is, but it don't matter at the end of the day. He can be and do whatever he want to do, and success will follow him. He got friends in high places. Everybody hating on Drake. But if you really put the microscope on Kendrick Lamar, there's no telling what you can find. If people wanted to have outrage about Kendrick Lamar and who he's married to and who he date and what he do in his personal life, his personal philosophy, I'm pretty sure his situation would be a whole lot worse than Drake. So y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. Do I feel like he was fooling the masses by releasing his album and having people thinking he was beefing with his record label? Whatever it takes to make a sale, they're willing to do it because they're ballers. They're trying to get paid, and the fans out there just have to go along for the ride, because if you want to be entertained and you follow entertainers, you really can't be peeking behind the curtain, because that's going to ruin everything for you anyways. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. I'm going to holler at y'all in my next video.